you very much.
It's an exciting time for the continent because Africa is home to some of the security, we're worried about inequality, we're worried about whether we can attain inclusive growth. Are these top of your mind as you do run one of the most important companies in Nigeria?
Yes, I suppose the challenge now is to manage the growth with what we need to do with the growth. And at the end of the day, it's a vast strata of population here, and we do need to ensure that everybody gets the benefit.
Okay. Ando, I know you guys have a lot of things that you're busy with right now, so we can look at your new deadline. We can touch on that. I'm sorry, I can't. I'll get fired if I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And
That's
I'll
fine.
get fired if you don't ask me.
Okay,
If
good.
you don't answer me. And then also, have you heard from the minister's office in terms of?
No, we're working through it. We're making good
Can you
progress.
give me a comment on that? Okay, fantastic. Okay.
And then just be careful not to
I just realised that I bumped you. Sorry.
Alright. Okay, and we're recording.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining us. It's good to have you on Bloomberg TV Africa.
Thank you very much.
It's an exciting time for the continent because Africa is home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. At the same time, we're worried about security, we're worried about inequality, we're worried about whether we can attain inclusive growth. Are these top of your mind as you do run one of the most important companies in Nigeria?
Yes, I suppose the challenge now is to manage the growth with what we need to do with the growth. And at the end of the day, it's a vast strata benefits of the growth that we have in Nigeria.
How do we get this right?
I think first by creating the right enabling environment for jobs to be created, enabling environment for opportunity, and that basically means focusing on the softer side, making it easy for people to start businesses, increasing education, increasing health infrastructure, and creating the opportunity for an economic, the benefit of an economy to traverse all aspects of society.
Do you think that the private sector has been very involved in creating this conducive environment that you speak of?
Absolutely. I think what is happening in Nigeria is the early realization compared to other African countries that as the population growth occurred, we needed to have a vibrant private sector.
So you can send us those. Ando, I know you guys have a lot of things that you're busy with right now. I'm sorry, I can't. I'll get fired. Have you heard from the minister's office in terms of?
No, we're working through it.
Okay,
We're making good
Can you give me
progress.
a comment on that? Okay, fantastic. Okay.
Okay, and then just be careful not to
I just realised that I bumped you. Sorry.
Alright. Okay, and we're recording.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining. Africa is home. Important companies in Nigeria.
Yes, I suppose the challenge now is to manage the growth with what we need to do with the growth. And at the end of the day, a vast strata of population here. Enabling environment for opportunity, and that basically means focusing on the softer side, making it easy for people to start businesses, increasing education, increasing health infrastructure, and creating the opportunity for an economic, the benefit of an economy to traverse all aspects of society.
Do you think that the private sector has been very involved in creating this conducive environment that you speak of?
Absolutely. I think what is happening in Nigeria is the early realization compared to other African countries that as the population growth occurred, we needed to have a a vibrant private sector, and then creating the enabling environment. That happened with the liberalization of the economy, 25 utilities. And effectively what you had is that you saw this big energy being unleashed into the economy, a lot of industrial production, a lot of investment in services, like the telecom sector where we have 120 million phone lines plus, occurred because the private sector was allowed to be the engine of growth in that area. And we're even seeing that traverse areas like agriculture today, where it's all private sector driven, and education.
We can cover that with B-roll, hey? Alright. Sorry, someone just walked past you.
Yeah.
Then the other, okay, that's my friend. Oh, yes. When we look at the corruption scenario that is playing out in Africa, we know there are a lot of issues that the continent needs to contend with. But when we look at Nigeria in particular, and we still hear people talking about the missing oil revenues, we're still waiting to hear whether there's going to be an international auditor that's going to be looking into this. Is this a concern for you? How do you feel about corruption right now?
Less a concern. I mean, there is corruption, there's no doubt about it, but I think it's not really about what we have today. It means increasing the value of our institutions by ensuring that our institutions are strengthened, improving transparency and reporting and governance, increasing and ensuring that the oversight functions of the legislature, of our executive is there. And what that does is that when you have an environment that is transparent, you tend to get better quality capital infused. People have a choice. People create businesses in there. I mean, when we had the telecoms licensing in 2000, was done on the internet. Anybody could follow the bidding. The government earned $285 million per license, and today we have 120 million phone lines with over $30 billion invested in the industry, and that's what transparency creates. So my perspective is to look at us creating a corrupt-free society by pushing and improving the transparency we have from the public sector as well as with the private sector.
Do you feel that the oil and gas sector is transparent in Nigeria?
Do I feel it's, sorry?
It's transparent.
Transparent.
Yeah.
It is transparent, but not transparent enough. There's several aspects in the oil sector. I think that on the extractive side, we do need to have a lot more information as to what's going on in terms of volumes produced, revenues raised, okay, and how those revenues are applied, and there's no doubt about it. On the downstream, we do need to find, my own preference really would certainly be a reduction or an elimination in petrol subsidies. Is far too high, considering what we could be spending that money in terms of long-term infrastructure. And it provides a short-term benefit at a great expense to the long-term benefit of the nation. And that's an area which troubles me.
Your acquisition, I mean, you're eyeing out your prize. It's been extended over and over again. It's going to be, you're looking at 30th of June right now. You're waiting for a go-ahead from the ministry. What is going on?
Well, we're working through the issues, and we feel confident that we will get them resolved sooner rather than later, and we will move to completion of the transaction.
Okay, you mentioned issues. You're working through issues. Please elaborate on that.
Well, the issues are your typical diligence, which you would do. I mean, there is an increased scrutiny on these transactions just to ensure that indeed the party taking over and the way and manner of the resources will be handled. Divestment. It is a large divestment. A company that was held in the hands of a foreign investor who had spent 40 years in Nigeria. And I think that the ministry just wants to ensure that for the next 40 years the assets will be safe.
Is that what you're telling the minister, that the assets will be safe? What kind of conversations have you been having with him?
I have cordial conversations, but I don't know if it's a good idea to speak about them on TV.
Have you got a hotline to...
If I had, then by now I wouldn't be having this conversation today.
But in all seriousness, what kind of conversations are you embarking on with government? What are their concerns? What are the things that you're working through right now? And do you think that we are going to see conclusion by the end of June?
I'm pretty confident we will see conclusion sooner rather than later. And I'm pretty satisfied that it's basically a new process that has been created, which is more thorough than we're used to in the past. And we have provided all the information we need to provide, and it's just simply a question of waiting for.
People have been asking about, is this something that you are considering at this point in time?
We already are. I mean, Oando PLC has a dual listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and our exploration and production subsidiary is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange in Canada.
In terms
So-
of energy resources?
Yeah, so effectively what we will be doing is post conclusion of the transaction, we will certainly proceed on some additional fundraising.
Let's also just touch on indebtedness. I mean, I know that you've recently sold an asset as well, so you are trying to raise money elsewhere. What are you telling investors right now? What are their concerns?
I mean, right now, in terms of on the debt side, our long-term ratio is more like a 50-50, 1-to-1 debt-to-equity ratio, and that's what we're focused on. And our whole idea is certainly to keep our cash flow strong, dividend high, debt low, because local interest rates are quite high, and pretty much focus on ensuring that we do keep a low gearing ratio.
In terms of capital raising going forward, is there anything in particular that you're looking at?
Yes, we expect to be relatively active in that. I mean, post the grant of the consent on the ConocoPhillips acquisition, we will be embarking on a capital raise. We simply wait till that occurs, and then we will be advising the market in due course.
Does your share price keep you up at night watching it? Not doing that well on the
Well,
GCE and
well, to a certain extent, yes. But I mean, I would say at the point in time where we are in the evolution of our company, the share price is less important for the next 3 months, because what we're doing is transformational. Invariably, the company will go from having a 70% downstream content in our overall balance sheet to having something like 85 to 90% of upstream assets on our books, and which certainly changes the way and manner we look at business. It improves our profitability substantially. It creates a certain stability in our earnings stream, and also enables us borrow at much cheaper rate,
So you're
cost
saying
of
it's a good
capital.
time for me to buy
Oh, it's a great time. I think if there ever was a good time, it's now.
Okay. In terms of margins, what kind of margins are you after going for?
In terms of margins, right now we are looking at a 25%, the minimum 25% rate of return on equity, and that is certainly achievable in the upstream side of our business. What was a bit of a challenge in the downstream where we had regulated pricing, but now with the mix which we now have in the company, we are able to better predict those sort of earnings.
I will relieve you now from the interview. Thank you very
Okay.
much, sir, for
Thank you
joining
very
us. I
much.
hope that you enjoyed that.
Thank
Is that
you.
okay?
Yes, it was.
Happy? Good.